Steve, can you hear me?
A big thanks and hello to Russell Levin, Group Agency Head at Clear Channel. Clear Channel is one of the world's leading out-of-home media owners, operating more than 35,000 sites in the UK, from Inverness in Scotland to Truro in Cornwall, and every major urban area in between. His role oversees key agency and advertiser relationships, heading up an account team accountable for over £10 million in advertising revenue. Out-of-home advertising is a form of advertising that can be found outside the consumer's home. Traditionally, this includes everything from billboards to bus shelters. You can see it outside your home and it's not on your mobile, and you're most likely looking at some sort of out-of-home ad. Out-of-home advertising nationally is hugely effective. Today we'll be discussing cases on the impact of the global pandemic in the out-of-home sector. How innovation is anticipated to deliver a roadmap of resilience to renaissance for the advertising channel. Welcome, Russ. Thanks so much for taking the time to have a chat today. Perhaps we'll start by taking it back to the beginning. 2005, you started your career in media 16 years ago at ITV. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about how it all started and what your journey's been through media through to out-of-home advertising today?
Yeah, absolutely. Good afternoon, Steve, and afternoon to everyone who's joined us today. It's been quite a journey, actually. Starting down in London at the age of 22, fresh-faced, straight out of university, and just fortunately, one of the very first roles I applied to with my geography degree, which has proved most useful, especially nowadays, was the ITV grad scheme, which thankfully I got, and didn't have to really look too far from there. An amazing place to start, not just a media career, but any career, down at Gray's Inn Road, back in the early noughties. So many great characters to listen to and learn from, and not learn from, as we look back retrospectively on some of the behaviour. But an amazing place to meet friends, colleagues, and then ultimately grow with them as I've gone through the industry. You know, a lot of friends that I made as grads at ITV or at agencies, you know, we'd all meet before a few industry events, weekly, you know, a few cans on the street before we went in, so that we could enjoy and meet and see people. And as we've grown through the industry together, you know, my fellow grads back then and now my fellow BDs, managing partners, etc. And it's been a lovely time. After 7 years, ITV decided to do something a little bit different. Corporate world just sort of got a little bit on top of me, so I decided to go to a little startup called Jazzy Media, which, for anyone who knows me, I do tend to talk about those days very fondly on Great Portland Street, selling media in schools. Learn a hell of a lot. You know, I'd come out of that corporate environment, ITV, where everybody knows what X Factor is. You're just talking about the benefits of the audience that's there. Back then anyway. Suddenly you're in an environment where nobody knows what you do, and it's very much a sales role. Getting in front of people, getting a meeting was almost the goal, not necessarily what you present at the meeting. But using those contacts, and then that was my first foray into outdoor, really. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Absolutely great industry to be involved in. Not that television wasn't, just a very different environment. I was there for 2 years and then got an opportunity to move into Clear Channel, which at the time I'd heard of them but knew little about. And then from then it's been quite a journey. Stayed in London for 4 years, working on the agency team, working on various patches with all different networks. Again, just solidifying those relationships. And then an opportunity came to move back to Manchester, which is where I'm from originally. Which I thankfully accepted. And actually, from a business point of view, Clear Channel were very, very, very supportive. I had a personal motivation. My dad was suffering from early onset dementia at the time, and it was an opportunity to spend more time with him as his condition worsened. So to be able to move with a business that I felt so passionately about, but also to feel comfortable that I could concentrate personally as well as professionally, so a lot of gratitude for that. So I feel very privileged to have been in that position. And then since moving up there, we've really moved the office on in line with the digital transformation of the business. The culture is very supportive of positive change. And it's come at the right time. I think outside of London, we're all experiencing this bounce, not just in the media industry, but in all industries. So to be in a business that's so forward thinking, aligned with areas of the country that are on a bounce, it feels like a very exciting time to be working at the moment.
Great. And so for the past sort of 8 years you've been with Clear Channel, you must have seen quite a few developments during that period, particularly for the channel itself. I know we're going to come on and talk a little bit more through the detail of the current innovations that are coming out, but perhaps if you can just talk through the past 8 years and how you've seen particularly out-of-home advertising develop during that period.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when I first came into the business, we were pretty much a business that had very much a static inventory up and down the country in different environments. And then over the 8 years, we've seen a digital transformation unlike no other I can imagine in any other industry. It's been aggressive, but aggressive in the right way. There's been a very clear vision, and to have the conviction to follow that when certain things go against you, I think is testimony to everybody involved right across the team. I think there were 90 ad shell live in London, which is what we call our digital sit sheets when I first joined the business. And then we shortly after that, we lost the Transport for London contract. And yeah, we were all gutted at the time, but we had the conviction to move on with our digital transformation plans. And actually, you fast forward on to where we are today. We believe that we offer a fantastic opportunity to advertisers that complements those other contracts that other media owners have. The hardware that's in the ground already is one part of it, and it shouldn't be underestimated how difficult it is to even install one digital bus shelter, let alone close to 2,500 on the roadside that we have at the moment. But the software that's now catching up to enable advertisers to execute that immediacy that they've always desired and briefed us in to do. It's absolutely fantastic to have that, as a salesperson, which we ultimately all are, to be out in market with the product that Clear Channel has and other fellow digital out of home media owners is brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, some of the, as you referenced, some of the innovation that's coming through now is incredible, really, around the integration, the ability to personalize, even the data element, and which is critical, really, I suppose, particularly when you look at the line advertising and the need, really, of marketers to be able to identify the impact of any channel, really. In terms of the channel itself, during those 8 years that you've been in the channel and worked at the forefront of what's going on, have there been any sort of defining campaigns that have maybe captured that moment in time with new innovations coming in? Have there been any campaigns that you recall where you're like, that really sort of moved the channel on from a capability perspective, or sort of a good example of that particular innovation coming in?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it will come as no surprise that the most defining period, I believe, since my time in outdoor has probably been the last 12 months. It's been an outrageously difficult time to work within outdoor, but at the same time, the opportunity that challenge has presented to redefine the medium for us has been incredibly exciting. You talk about campaigns, or you ask about campaigns that are a bit of a statement in the ground. I mean, there's various different probably buckets you could think about. I really like the example of the Dracula activation that the BBC did. I think it was the back end of, I mean, the last year doesn't feel like it existed really, does it? But at the back end of 2019, I think it was, going into 2020. For me, that was, and if anyone hasn't seen it, please do. If you just type into Google BBC Dracula out of home, it'll come straight up. But it was a billboard activation. There was two. There was one in Birmingham. There was one in Brixton down in London. And as it got darker, the light would then creep across the billboard, and the stakes would then enhance, and it would become this wonderful, visually arresting view. But for me, what's so impressive about that campaign was it just caught fire socially. It was the first campaign I'd really seen that you couldn't open LinkedIn or Twitter without somebody talking about it. You know, was it an out-of-home campaign? Was it a social campaign? I've heard. Does it really matter? I don't think so. From my point of view, no consumer ever thinks, oh, I wonder if that was an out-of-home campaign or a social campaign. But if the BBC wanted to promote their shows, they very much reached the audience that they did. So for me, that was a really key campaign. There were other brilliant campaigns throughout the pandemic. There were advertisers that, they didn't necessarily donate their space, but they sponsored a message. They used outdoor for what it's good at. It's that notice board. It's that opportunity to, make a public declaration. One of my personal favorites was, outdoor. It was used as an opportunity to show people how to behave within the pandemic. And Paddy Power, as they always do, they sort of took that message and they owned it in a comical fashion. Thoroughly enjoyed. There was on one of the 6 sheets, there's an image of Peter Crouch with a very simple tagline of leaving the couch, remember the crouch, because he's 2 meters tall. Just little things like that. Paddy Power, very contextually relevant. There's that immediacy that digital out of home delivered. And it was, for them, it was reaching a very pure audience. 51% of the UK population can't work at home. So for those that were implored to work at home and stay at home, they couldn't. So for them, it's a very pure audience. And we very quickly saw advertisers jumping on the back of that. Wix, B&Q, Howdens, these types of companies that very traditionally weren't most prolific users of outdoor. All of a sudden, it was a very pure audience for them to do so. And then different advertisers started to think more about how they could use data to reach these different audiences. And that's when it kind of got more brands and clients and agencies and specialists thinking about how they can serve very pure audiences by utilizing the data that we had within out of home.
Yeah, great. And I think, some of the examples we talked about before and some of those that stand out, the BBC example is excellent in its own right. But certainly from a marketer's perspective, from my perspective, from an agent's perspective, we talk very much around the integration of different channels, particularly when it brings together above the line with more digital-led channels. And, when we look at things like localized campaigns that's often very suitable for out-of-home advertising, integration with mobile particularly is quite a relevant part of the discussion. And for me, that's where it really moves on, when you're sending signals from different channels, and that's optimizing the performance of those individual channels around the audience, essentially. Data-driven or data that's available nowadays to influence real-time advertising based on the actual audience that's local to the site or the set of sites that maybe a Clear Channel site or a different operator. Have you seen much in that particular area at Clear Channel? Is that something that a sort of integration with mobile? Real-time, personalized.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to go back to your previous question, you talk about 8 years and what's been defining. We've all been on this digital crash course in the last year, which has been phenomenal for everyone's understanding of digital and its uses. So we knew that we had to invest in data, and we already had plans to do so, but it very much accelerated our belief and projects within it coming into the pandemic. We'd already decided to partner with a business called AdSquare, who they take signals from mobile phones. It's very top line. 7.5 million mobile phones around the UK, which is around 10% of the UK adult population. And what that does is very much paints a picture of where audiences are, audiences' movements. It's using that mobile data to then relay back to clients, how mobility is changing within audiences. It was, within 2 weeks of the pandemic hitting in March, we repurposed that data and we created what at the time was called the return audience out-of-home hub, which is now the out-of-home audience hub. And that was very much tracking the return of the consumer back to outdoor. But not only that, it was showing different environments of where people were. So anecdotally, we all know that the city centre is a lot quieter now than our local high streets. There's a newfound, not a newfound love, but that re-emergence of love with our local high street. Anecdotally, we can all say that, but to have the data at our disposal to have a look at it and actually show clients data sets, it's all cleaned by AdSquare and it's aggregated, so it's all very GDPR compliant. But to show clients as and where people, their data sets are, and then allowing them to reach them, it's a very efficient and optimized way of booking outdoor within an entire campaign. I think it works very well. We see it as the location call out. Again, we talk about digital out of home. AdShell Live has 2,500 units up and down the country. It gives an opportunity for a brand like Very to say, hello, Manchester, this camera is this price on this day. At the same time, it's talking to Liverpool. At the same time, it's talking to Newcastle. But it's optimizing where it plays out that message, where we know it's at its busiest at that time. So data is playing an absolutely crucial and pivotal part in how brands are planning their campaigns. I'm sure we'll see the move forward in the next 12 months as the acceleration into automation and programmatic out of home continues to gather pace. We're already seeing the beginning of that, and it's hugely exciting. It's what clients, agencies, and advertisers want. They not in its entirety. It would just be another channel that would sit alongside the other channels within outdoor and very much complement it. But it's certainly an opportunity. If there's a cider brand out there that. Sorry, Steve.
Cool. Sorry, I lost you there for a second. You mentioned Very there. Sorry to interject. And it just threw up a memory really from an integrated campaign that our Dentsu team in London actually ran, where it was doing exactly what we just talked through there. And it's actually over Cyber Week Friday, where we integrated the trading team as well as digital out of home and mobile signals, and they were able to identify when they were best priced on certain products. And because it's such a high footfall, this is sort of pre-pandemic, high footfall time period, Black Friday, so key retail shopping time of the year, and they were changing and adapting the out of home messaging in real time, hour on the hour, based on what they were best priced on in terms of products. An incredible campaign in terms of using data, using the technology available throughout the home and mobile data signaling, integrating with the retail trading team with a sort of innovative stuff. So yeah, hopefully we'll see more of that as we come out of the pandemic and football returns to the streets, and we can start seeing those that innovation being enabled again.
Yeah, and Steve, it's not just that. It's
clear channel on this. Naturally, your own forecasting purposes for the purposes of the channel, and generally useful information, understanding the expectation for recovery for the channel. Do you want to talk a little bit through the data that you pulled together with JC and what you expect over the course of the period?
Sorry, Steve, I didn't quite catch that question. It just went a bit quiet.
Yeah, with regards to the work that you've done with JC Deco and the expectation for recovery for the channel, the Clear Channel has been pushing out through the content on the blog, on the site. Can you talk through a little bit of that, and maybe what your expectations, what Clear Channel's expectations are for recovery based around football returning?
Yeah, absolutely. So we partnered with JC&Co. It was just about a year ago, actually, for an initial research piece, which we brought to market. Seemed very old-fashioned down in the Soho Hotel, physical people, as we presented it. That was the Moments of Truth, and it was received really well by market. And that research has gone on to help more brands and deliver those contextually relevant campaigns. Fast forward on a year, we just released our latest partnership piece with them, which was Moments of Trust. That was a fantastic event, all held online. And actually, it's interesting, like, we're all really, we're all, speaking personally and from people I speak with, we're desperate to get back into the physical world and see people and have a coffee, etc. But actually, in terms of webinars, like giving people access to see those kind of events, it was attended by nearly 900 people, which you couldn't book a room to actually physically host 900 people, could you? But that was received really well. We had 5 incredible clients talking about trust in out of home being as important as it was, and then there's an opportunity for somebody at Clear Channel, someone at JC&Co to come out and physically take through the research. We're currently rolling that out at the moment. So these research projects are really important. We know the Clear Channel environments from an outdoor perspective are crucial within outdoor, but we're not arrogant enough to know that outdoor has many facets to it. So from a global point of view, they look after the underground. From JC&Co's point of view, they have rail formats. And actually, if you're planning to reach consumers up and down the country, you have to mix all media owners on any one plan, and we know that. So in terms of its recovery, we know there'll be environments that will bounce back quicker. Roadside at the moment, through the proliferation of people using cars more than public transport, is what we're seeing from the data. But I'm sure the likes of rail will come back, and that will only enhance out of home's recovery. Clear Channel, we're talking very much about the Renaissance. It's something that we've adopted. I mean, to be honest with you, I was at the zoo on Friday. I had to queue for the best part of an hour to get into Chester Zoo. On the Thursday night before that, I had a drink in town, all very social distance and sat, obviously. But it was like New Year's Eve in central Manchester on Thursday. I've never seen so many people before. I'm sure in Newcastle it's not too dissimilar. So people are desperate to get out. They're desperate for social interaction, and that'll only enhance outdoors recovery, I'm sure.
Yeah, great. Another topic I wanted to touch on quite at the moment over the last few weeks was the Peter Crouch ad. I know Peter had his podcast, BBC podcast, and therefore it's got a lot of airwaves, but this was actually a Clear Channel site, wasn't it? And I know there was this play around Bond Street, the Bond Street in London. Do you want to talk a little bit through that, just in case there's any quite comical to the story, isn't it, on how it's been done?
Yeah, it wasn't too. It's disappointingly clinical, actually. From an organic point of view, it very much came up on the show. However, it was very much jumped on quite quickly and planned. But again, there was immediacy to it. We had to find the billboard, we had to get someone out to post it, and we had to then organise the photography that then could be shared, that then could continue the joke. But again, it just shows, outdoors opportunity to make that public declaration. Again, it's a couple of sites. There was a play on words. It was very much shared and social. It doesn't have to very much be a digital billboard to do something, to do a stunt that reacts so quickly, as it were. But the BBC have been amazing. They've used outdoor to the best of its capabilities for the best part of 2 to 3 years now, and not just the BBC, ITV, Channel 4, Channel 5, all of them do. They very much publicise shows up until TX on digital formats. Then on the night, they'll change the message very much to "It's showing tonight," and then the following days after, it changes to catch up on the iPlayer of their choice, whether it would be. And I don't think it's a coincidence that we see the likes of Disney Plus, Netflix, etc. These are brands that the very chic of digital brands. They're using the oldest format, which we always say has the brightest future, if you will. I don't think there's a coincidence to that at all. But yeah, that was a particularly funny. I actually had a few texts from friends who never messaged me about work at all, saying, "Oh, we heard the latest Crouchy podcast. Oh, this would be great if we could do something like this." And actually, it was already very much wheels were in motion, and it just came out. And it was brilliant. But it just shows actually that something out home can actually transcend different friendship groups. It's not necessarily you and I from an agency and a media and about just geeking out about how good that activation was. It's transcended into social groups, football fans sharing, and just having a little bit of good fun with it.
Yeah, and that's one of the good things about that news story, I guess, is the fact that to your point really, that it did make sort of mainstream news essentially, and it was great to get recognition, I suppose. Although it was actually not a digital board, or the recognition wasn't based around the innovation or some of the great stuff that's being done on the channel. It's just nice to get people talking about it, essentially, particularly at the end or towards the end of a period that's been hugely challenging for the channel. And in terms of sort of current news, you also shared very recently, I think it was last week, around some recognition that we've received as Clear Channel, winning Commercial Team of the Year at the Campaign Media Awards. You must be really proud. It's always nice to be recognised, isn't it? Whether it's whichever award ceremony it is. Did that mean a lot to you and the team for gaining that recognition?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was actually thinking about this morning that this has come at a wonderful time to talk about it, being 4 or 5 days after it. But the team effort that went into not necessarily winning it. I mean, the recognition is very much the cherry on top of the work that we did. I mean, there was some pretty dark days when we were all sat by our laptops at the back end of last year. But I think the work that we did and the speed that we did it at, we were all very proud of just keeping the channel alive and very much delivering a wonderful outcome for Clear Channel and the channel itself. But the recognition from Campaign was obviously incredible. It's to think that you've gone up against all media and our story in a year where the Prime Minister implored the general public to stay at home, to come out on top was quite frankly, it's incredible. But I don't think we should underestimate for 1 minute the team effort from absolutely every single person at Clear Channel that went through. And I'm not just talking about the people that sell the media, plan the media. We're also talking about those on the streets that are putting posters up. There was a lot of nervousness back in March, April time. Is it safe for me to leave my house to put that poster? Nobody really knew much about COVID-19. And I don't think that should be underestimated. It shouldn't be underestimated. Those, a lot of the tech work in the background to deal with, how quickly things were having to be changed around and moved around as different government messaging was altered and changed. And in every business, it drove everybody mad. But there was a lot of people that contributed incredible work to bring that about. And, it was the recognition is amazing, but I think the achievement of the business in itself through last year is really, I think, where we won personally.
Fantastic, yeah. And I know, you've done a great job at many other media providers to make it through, essentially. I know from working in the industry, essentially, many of our listeners do. It was such a shock moment, and that 12 months ago, and to even navigate that period from the culture perspective, let alone the obvious commercial talk about has been very challenging, and I've got a huge amount of admiration for those at the cold face of those channels that have been impacted, such as the blind ones and like that. And as we're coming towards the end of our session, Russ, just one last question really from me. What's the future about It's still very difficult and really truly have confidence as we navigate those challenges. What are you guys doing for the channel participation, the advertising channel as we move forward through beyond? Particular things that you prioritise on your side, or things you want to
Yeah, I mean, from our point of view, it's very much continuing on the digital transformation path. You know, our classic 6-sheet inventory is very dear to us, but at the same time, you know, we've seen that the market wants a more digital inventory in certain environments. So it's very much continuing on our digital transformation path, continuing to offer not just the physical solution, but also ensuring that we can offer the best way to buy that, whether it be through automation or programmatic outdoor. And I think also just continuing that collaboration with our specialist agency and client partners. I think, you know, what's worked so well over the last probably 2 to 3 years is understanding what each other needs and how we need to work together to deliver those outcomes for our clients. And I think just more collaboration, more talking, more interrogation of a brief, just to ultimately know that the results that we're delivering are the right results. I think sustainability is very clear. It's very dear, to Clear Channel. You know, we've always tried to move that journey on. Committed to add net zero, which is so sustainability by 2030, zero carbon footprint by 2030. But we've always tried to stay on point there. You know, we've installed LED lighting to the vast majority of our bus shelter network. You know, we've started to introduce things like living roofs. Edible playgrounds was a favourite of mine, which we installed within the Newcastle area when we won that contract, which is an opportunity to help children have a more comfortable relationship with food. You know, grow vegetables, cook with vegetables, and hopefully tackle obesity as they sort of move through their life. And I think what a lot of people do forget, actually, that outdoor, it sounds a bit corny, but it's a force for good. You know, 50p of every pound that comes in from an advertiser goes back out, whether into the community that it's currently serving. And I think, you know, a lot of people do forget that. You know, a lot of brands talk about their purpose. You know, they talk about wanting to be sustainable. They talk about wanting to work with channels that match their ethos. Well, there's an opportunity in outdoor for them to do that. You know, there's other channels are a bit more difficult for that to be the case, but in outdoor there is very much an opportunity. Wonderful campaign from Nestle that's just finished, where they ran 100% recycled 6-sheet copy, and they used green inking methods to make it ultimately sustainable from a renewable point of view. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that come to the fore, and I'm really excited about what we're going to see moving forward there.
Fantastic. No, it's great to hear, and I definitely concur with. I don't think many people realise, like, you know, the force of good that Out of Home has, and that it's absolutely the case. So thanks so much for that, Ross, and thanks so much for your time today.
Pleasure.
A really, really engaging, interesting conversation, and you know, I look forward to seeing with you, you know, what the future of the channel may be, and fingers crossed. But the initial indications from last week or two, I don't think it goes right. Hopefully, to return to normal, and everything else will follow fairly quickly. Fingers crossed for that. So yeah, thanks again, Russ. Really appreciate your time, and we'll catch up soon.
My pleasure. Thanks, Steve.
All right, take care.
Take care. Bye.